Welcome to Home's Room. Just like Homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin.
You know how I know I need a haircut? When my hair is like fucking with my ear as like the thing is like playing and I'm trying not to move and make noise and I'm like, God damn it.
Matt,
hilarious.
Totally different approach to this intro that I was going to give, where I was like, you know how it's going to be a good episode is if it's 20 minutes past our agreed upon recording start time, that we've had like introductory conversation about future episodes or whatever the hell. So I'm like, it's going to be a great episode because we've had so much conversation about this episode and future episodes. And then you come out of nowhere with, hey, you know how I know I need a haircut?
It was like real-time information, but also I just want to point out, just so if you're worried at home whether like my hair is really that long, it actually was a loose hair, and that's why it was such a big deal because it continued to move as I was trying to like get it out of the way. So
well, thank God for that, yeah. Matt.
Hey, the struggle's real when you have earphones on. Miss, I'm wearing earbuds. When you have, and I'm pretty sure you stopped wearing over the earphones because of the way. So don't even come at me with that. Stop it. But also, I am super excited to announce that we just wrapped up our Instagram playoffs in our timeline, and Spencer McKenzie Brown won, knocked out Simo, which was the funnest thing in the world because they kept going back and forth in comments and in their stories, and that's exactly what I was trying to do. Is just like, let's have some fun, and they were killing me. And ultimately, like the way that whole thing played out, I could not have like scripted it any better. The first two interviews I did, Simo got a like 1 year later because I couldn't think of what to do, and it just made sense to do an interview with her 1 year later. And then like out of nowhere, that almost that same week that we were doing that became a thing. I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do 1 year later. And then flash forward, and Spencer was like, hey, you want to record another episode? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it just so happened to also fall when his would have been 1 year later. And then, you know, the rest is history, and you've heard all of that stuff. But thank you for everybody that voted in the playoffs. And like, some of these went so far, like off of what I was expecting to happen. So that was cool. I liked watching the like back and forth, because it would be, one would be ahead and then the other would be ahead, and then it wasn't until like somebody like super hard campaigned, and then like you could tell that like more people must have showed up for that person in that chunk of time, and it was like, this was way more interactive than I was expecting it to be. So like I'm glad that played off, and maybe we'll have to do that every year around playoff time for hockey, because that's where it came from.
100% support that, even though the St. Louis Blues did not even make a playoff run at all this year. That's the only time I actually pay attention to playoff anything. I'll just fully own that.
Yeah.
But I also think it's a major dub for you, Matt, to even set up a situation where it's two creatives who are going head to head and having some form of discourse. It's amazing.
I put them on opposite side of the bracket so that didn't happen. And like, I had that, like the ones that like, it was, I could have put that one, like Simo's on the same side as Spencer's, but I put our episodes on the same side as Spencer's because I was like, I don't know what, like our episodes all have the same amount of like, I did do, you know, like based off of like listens. So it was, you know, a 1v8 situation, and ours, like the two of ours were just the top two listened to of ours. So it wasn't like a fudged bracket. So I was like, I'll put this one on that side and this one on the other side. Not just because I like, that's the way it worked out. And then I wasn't expecting it to turn out the way that it did. So that was all the fans. That was all people that listened. That wasn't, I had no anything. I will also say I have technically 3 Instagram accounts. I have my like personal one, I have the Homes Room podcast one, and I have another one for my hobby. So I voted from my hobby and my personal page, one for Spencer and one for Simo. So
Did
like,
you cheat?
No, how could I cheat? I just said I voted for one each of them.
That was still balancing out the scales, or what?
But I'm voting for each of them. I'm not.
Okay.
I have the ability to not to. If I voted twice for one of them, that would be cheating.
Okay.
But I put in a vote for both of them because
Love it.
I love both of them, and I love both of those interviews, and I love the fact that they have been such a like, you know, staple at the Homes Room, you know, bulletin board, cork board, whatever they are, blackboard, I guess is what we use for our YouTube background. So we'll say blackboard, but we you know, we love and support all of the people that love and support us, but also like our guests, especially this season. Those interviews have been so good and so much response has come from it that like I set a bar for myself to kind of have better interviews, and not saying better because the other ones were bad, but I just wanted to like level up the interviews.
Yeah.
So, you know, and like today we dropped an episode with the 2 Doms, and I've already gotten some like, whoa, that was not what I was expecting, but it was such a good interview. I'm so glad that you had that conversation. So yeah, like I said, you know, I'm not bashful, and having those conversations is fun for me, but those 2, Mistress Mia and John, were definitely friggin' nuts. And at some point in time, I'm going on their show. So
love it.
We'll see how that goes.
If any of our Homes Room homies like connect emotionally to our intro or outro music, that's 100% Kenzie. I will also fully plug
Spencer Mackenzie Brown. He changed his name.
Spencer Mackenzie Brown, 100%. I will also plug Simo's YouTube page. She has started posting vlogs of like her days as like a video director, and just like general vlogs as like her as a creative. And it's been so interesting to like tap into her mentality of like how she approached projects and like the struggles and issues that she comes up with, and, you know, all the other things that she wants to like bring to light with just being a creative in general. And definitely appreciate both of them. I really love our theme music, Matt. I will fully own. You see me when you play the intro and the outro. I am jamming. My head is bobbing. It's like a great like centering moment for me to be able to like leave everything else at the doorstep and come into the Homes Room podcast and be present and available to have these types of conversations that you, for whatever reason, invite me to be a part of the journey as your co-host. So I love it. It's all great.
Perfect way to segue into what we're going to talk about today. So you've been annoying the ever-loving crap out of me since probably last summer.
Matt!
I think was the first time I remember you saying it, and you were like, I'm an Enneagram 8, and da-da-da-da. I don't know if you've taken one. You should take one, and we should totally have a conversation about it. And at least once a month, I think you say that in one of the recordings. So like, I finally did one, and this, I honestly, like, I have to see when the screenshot was, because I'm pretty sure I did it forever ago. And yeah, March 29th is when I took this screenshot. So that means that I did that on March 29th at 6:59 a.m. And I forgot to tell you until last week that I did that, and took an Enneagram test. So I was like, hey, we can have an episode about this, but I didn't want to just have a conversation about like the Enneagram test specifically. I kind of wanted to talk about more broadly, just like the personality tests in general, like the Pottermore test, and you know, just like the ones that you take, and it's like, you might be a squid because you do these things, and whether there's like validity to them, or whether we feel like there isn't validity. And I will preface that by saying we're just some knuckleheads that are talking about our opinion about these things. We're not necessarily professionals in any way, so don't take our opinion as such. And if you do take it as such, do it at your own risk. Stamp, done. Disclaimer,
Matt,
out of
that's
the way.
So much more graceful than my just generic definition of where we are and what we're doing. I generally own up to the fact that we are just two dumb idiots floating around on a rock with internet access.
See, but we say that all the time, so we got to start changing it
We
up.
do. I know we have to change
we
it
can't
up,
get
but
stale. We got to keep going forward.
I love it.
So.
I appreciate it. And also, let me just give some props to my boss on paper, Matt Holmes. Thank you so much for finally bowing and accepting that this is a topic of conversation on one of our episodes. Let me also just preface this by saying I am somebody that does not necessarily trust their own judgment as a I've been very open and honest in our past episodes. I struggle with ADHD, and as part of that, I struggle with anxiety. I struggle with depression. I struggle with past trauma responses, whatever. Listen, okay? So as part of that whole fun puzzle piece of struggle, anything that I can get, whether it's a personality test or it's a form of therapy where I can embrace it and gain some type of insight into my own personality and my own perspective, or, farm some kind of perspective that I feel like I can trust, I appreciate. So for me, I at this point, Matt, I would say it's over 2 years ago that I found the Enneagram test.
Well, hold on, wait, before you start explaining that, we're not jumping into it just yet.
Go ahead, babes.
I was just talking about what we were going to talk about. So before we launch into that, it is also the week of 4th of July when this drops. So this should be on July 1st. So happy Independence Day to the people that celebrate Independence Day. We will be on a break at that time. So I am wishing you in the past, but you'll hear it again in the present, a happy Independence Day, and I hope that you and the family are having some sort of fun, and you keep all your fingers and toes and noses and ears and eyeballs and eyebrows and all that stuff, because I know sometimes it gets crazy out in them streets with fireworks.
God bless America. And I just also, as an adult that is a taxpayer, functioning person of society, let me also just say solidarity to all of our dogs that struggle greatly with anxiety about fireworks. I am definitely one of them. I live in a subdivision, and we try to remove ourselves and stay somewhere else overnight where it's kind of buried in the woods, so that our dog does not have to be subjective to fireworks. So again, solidarity to all of us millennial parents that adopted an animal and are trying to love them through firework anxiety.
Yeah, I feel that. We used to have a dog that he was real bad about it. Our dog now does. I think he's more loud noise, must attack, not anxiety. Our other dog was scared, hide under the bed, shove himself between you and everything else, because he was nope. We got him a thunder jacket, and he didn't do anything. He would just rip your arm apart with the Velcro because he was trying to nuzzle up against you so hard. So yeah, I feel that. But yeah, like I said, just wanted to shout out if this one does make it to the video version of everything. With why the red, white, and blue lights and all of that. But like I said, we want to celebrate the fact that we are able to have this platform, and that we continue to have random conversations as well as important conversations. So, all of those things wouldn't happen if we were in a, harder to have free speech and said internet to publish free speech. So we want to say thank you, and hopefully you guys out there are enjoying your holiday, regardless of whether you celebrate it as Independence Day, or you just get together with people, or you just go watch fireworks, whatever it is. Hopefully it's not balls hot where you are, because that's always not fun either.
Listen, both of us are trapped in the Midwest, so we just it is what it is, and we get stuck with what we're stuck with. Always envious of those that have better forecasts than us. So, but also solidarity, homie, because Matt, we can at least relate over some of these forecasts.
The humidity is already strong, and it's only May, so we'll see. But
Hate it.
like I said, we were going to talk about the Enneagram test and everything. So
Mhm.
back to you talking about discovering
Yes.
the Enneagram test 2 years ago, as I believe is what you said.
Yes. So 2 years ago, I am not somebody that like fully subscribes to the spiritual, the mythical, the anything that's supernatural. I am already a skeptic from a foundational assumption of that conversation. However, when I started to make the choice to be more active on Instagram about 2 years ago to try and build my platform, build my audience, just coming from the perspective of a griever, coming from a perspective of a regular podcast host, a co-host, I discovered Enneagram, the Enneagram test. And for those that do not know, the Enneagram test is a type of personality test that categorizes you into one of 9 Enneagrams. It gets a little convoluted when, you take the basic test, you figure out what category or what Enneagram you fit into. And then from there are like, personality quizzes. There are like descriptions about this is your type. This is the other Enneagram type that you are drawn to when you are in a stressful situation. Or there are several Instagram accounts that I follow that have given me some level of insight where 9 times out of 10, Matt, whether or not you are a skeptic, they put together these posts and it's like, here's a hypothetical situation, or maybe more on the entertainment spectrum of like, these are the Disney princesses that represent your specific Enneagram type. Or, if this is a hypothetical situation that you are faced, this is how the different Enneagram types would respond. I have ultimately, as a fully owning and public critic of a lot of these personality tests and their responses, the Enneagram test is one of the personality tests that I actually subscribe to and believe that there's some level of like personality education behind. So, I took the Enneagram test, and 1 through 9, I was an Enneagram 8. Stereotypically is referred to as the challenger. Somebody who has a strong personality, somebody that has, who is very motivated by injustice, somebody who is very type A, somebody that subscribes to, if I don't do it, it won't get done right kind of thing. Ultimately referred to as the challenger across all the Enneagram Instagram profiles that try to like put together these infographics about this Enneagram category. I only say that this is a type of personality test that I kind of believe in, even if it's not necessarily like science-based, only because there has not been an Instagram post about an Enneagram type 8 that I have not that I haven't seen, processed, and been like, oh, I feel validated in this specific perspective of like, oh, I fully relate to this Disney princess, even if that's like a stupid like topic to feel validated by. But I have had close girlfriends. I've sent them links to Enneagram tests, and I've also been really validated by their results too, because it kind of explains the way that we relate to one another. So I will also tell you, Matt, I was a little bit validated when I, as an Enneagram 8, the challenger, saw your Enneagram test results, because in stressful situations, the Enneagram 8 reaches out and clings to your Enneagram type. I've had very close girlfriends take the Enneagram test, and they are the same Enneagram type as you. So, even if it's not necessarily science-based, I've fully owned that I am a critic of most things, especially spiritual things, as we're like coming up on Halloween episodes again, homie.
As far as the Disney, you said a lot, so I have to try and
no.
It's hard to go back and like.
Let's go. Sorry. If I'm ever standing on my soapbox, Matt, like interrupt me, please. I just like get on my soapbox and I start to just.
Well, if you're making a point, I'm not going to interrupt you. It's like, that's flat out. That's the point, is like, I'm going to give you time to speak, which is my Enneagram type. So I don't know why you just said that. Is making a safe place for people to speak. That's literally in the description of what it is. A place where people feel safe to share themselves. So whatever. But what I was going to say is you keep saying like the silly thing about the Disney princesses. It's not silly that like they do something that says you relate to this Disney princess. My thing is, how did they type the Disney princess in order to do that? So I get it and I understand it, but that's the silly part. It's not that you relate to it and you're like, oh, I would totally be this. It's that, so it's somebody took the test for that Disney princess and said, you would fit in this category. Like, you know, I don't know what Disney princess it would be that you would get, but it's like friggin' Merida or something makes sense to me, where it's like,
it's always Merida for Enneagram type 8.
That's what I said. That's the only one I could see because it's the only one that makes sense.
It's always Merida.
But also it's like, maybe it could be Elsa, I guess. I don't know. But at the same time, like, that's just because she follows the same like pattern as Merida, and I'm well versed in my Disney princesses, not because I have daughters, but because I enjoy like the world of Disney. So I grew up on the movies, so I know the older ones and I know like the newer ones, but also I could also see you being in the same like network as Rapunzel in like Tangled, that particular version, because while hoping the world is a good place, she also can't not see justice. She understands that I have to find out the answer to this because it doesn't seem right to not do that. And everybody should have, you know, like, so it's just so funny to me that people use Disney princesses. Like, I've seen movies used, I've seen, you know, like art music, like 80s, you know, 70s musicians used. And I just always think though it's funny that that's a thing. So, you know, it just kind of is. But as far as the Enneagram test goes, I think all of them kind of tell me the same thing. So, I mean, I guess there's probably something to them, but this one was just so interesting because it seems as though it was more well written in the description of what it is. A lot of the ones that I've taken, they say generally the same thing, but it's also like, you know, you could be like, you are a very strong-willed individual who also likes to help others and who also doesn't enjoy being told what to do. It's like, yeah, motherfucker, that's all of us. Like, any of us could fall into that category at any point in time, where this one didn't seem so much like that. They had enough detail about it that I felt more like trustworthy, I guess.
Matt, are you cheapening your Enneagram results to like a horoscope? Because that's what it feels like you maybe just said.
I'd believe in a horoscope before I would believe in anything else. But also,
Lord,
not because I don't want to be offended by that, but I kind of almost hit a nerve. But
why? What did I say, Matt?
The thing that, like, I guess gets me the most about like the horoscope thing is horoscopes, if you look into them a little bit more in depth, not just like your root, like today you're in for a, you know, like surprise, like, yeah, those are pretty generic and like almost fortune cookie-esque.
Mm-hmm.
But detailed horoscope charts and things seem to be more in line with a spiritually minded person. So people that aren't spiritually minded would never like catch up on them, or it would seem wrong because they use their thinking brain more than their spiritual brain or their spiritual center. But as far as like the Enneagram test, I'm not likening it to anything because they're all different, but they all operate in the same sphere of influence of you could probably like take it 3 different times and answer 3 different questions differently every time, and it might skew the results enough to push you one way or the other. This one that I took did not seem that way. It seems like it would have been harder to skew the results just by answering it. Like I took the Pottermore one like 6 different times and got different results every time because I just changed the answers to them. And it was like, man, like this is silly. Like I said, I took it 6 times. I did get Gryffindor twice and I got Slytherin twice, I believe. So like it was still close enough that it gave me the same results, but after I changed other answers and it went back to those. So whether it isn't, I don't know.
I am super interested in your perspective about like horoscopes being more valid than Enneagram.
I didn't say more valid.
Oh, sorry.
You just hit it with like it was less valid. So I didn't say more valid. I said I would listen to it more for me, not because it's more valid, but because I am more of a spiritually minded person. So to me, listening to a horoscope thing that has a little bit more detail addresses a spiritual side less than a like specific, I guess, intellectual side is what I'd say about it. So it's not that it's any less or more valid. They are equally like, you know, snake oil salesman-y, but just for different reasons.
So let me also just plug homies of the Holmes Room podcast. If you are looking for an app that will help you connect more for your horoscope, there is an app that I love and I periodically kind of check in depending on the horoscope, but I also just anytime I'm feeling super lost and I need just some type of guidance horoscope wise, CoStar is a horoscope app that is widely used. You just like any kind of typical horoscope, you enter your basic information, but your place and your time of birth. And, you know, again, I Enneagram or horoscope, I kind of approach these perspectives with like a grain of salt of like maybe like 30-40% critic of like I'm not a full believer for any of this, but I will also tell you that understanding that I am an Enneagram type 8 has helped me understand myself a little bit better. Even if I know that there's, you know, a couple things here in all these Instagram posts about the Enneagram 8, the challenger. One thing about Enneagrams is you have wings. You have an Enneagram, your basic type, and then you also have like in times of stress, you either have like I'm an 8 type, you know, wing with a 9 or wing with a 2, which is just like the 2 basic foundational assumptions of being an Enneagram type 8. So I have only seen overwhelmingly that 8s, Enneagram 8s, me, the challenger, in times of stress we cling to Enneagram type 2s, which is why I felt a certain level of validation, Matt, when you shared your Enneagram test results and you are a type 2, because it's almost like grounded energy that I can, approach a problem where the two of us are active players in, or, whatever. I've had past really close best friends that have taken the Enneagram and they have been type 2s. I've had other close best friends that have taken the Enneagram and they've also been fellow 8s. And it's almost like every single friend that I've asked to take this personality test, it's almost like, duh, of course, you accepted into that. Matt, of course, duh, you were a type 2. You are the grounded energy to me being a bull in a china shop.
So the thing with like all of those, and I guess why I would like with the personality type tests, I think a lot of people like you felt validated by it and everything. And I think that too many people look at those and they use it as an excuse. Well, I'm this behavior because I do this thing. Where with a horoscope, I just have to be aware of this thing. I don't have to, like, it's not telling me who I am or what I'm doing. It's saying, hey, make sure that this week you're more mindful of these things because you might be more susceptible to anger. You might be more susceptible to, taking people beyond at their face value, and their motives might not be pure. Horoscopes have more of a guidance and like a, hey, maybe this is a thing, maybe it's not a thing, but just be aware of it. Your love life could stand, more communication this month because, and those aren't, I've never heard bad horoscope advice that made me feel like, man, this is going to be like an excuse that somebody's going to use. And if they do use it, it's like, well, my horoscope said I need to stay away from this person because they're a Libra in this, or because they're, and it's like, nobody really does that. And the people that do that, you know exactly who they are. So you kind of just look at them and smile. Where if somebody was like, well, I'm a type 8, so I can't be doing this, you're going to look at them and be like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different kind of thing. However, I will say I am big on fortune cookies, and I keep fortunes that I have like just all over the place because the message means whatever it means. See, and you're doing that, and that's the kind of stuff that like is funny to me. Let me make my point before you judge it. So the point is, people are.
It's because I'm an Enneagram type 8, Matt. That's all.
People.
Go ahead.
People always know what they are saying. They just never listen. And that is in my podcast space because it is a valid message. And I keep the ones that are valid messages all over the place. Like I have one in my wallet that says money isn't important because what you really spend is your time. So that isn't a fortune cookie, like in the way that you reacted to it. Mm-hmm. So like that shows I don't want to say grounded energy because that's what you said, and it's not necessarily that, but that shows the like receptiveness of communication that I have, and that's part of the Enneagram that I'm supposed to be, is receptive to, I guess, like I said, communication. So when I read something like that, I don't read it as the message of a fortune cookie. I read it as that makes sense. I can understand that. And I think that that's so interesting because, like I said, this one does have some validity to it. And it's like, okay, I can see that. So what I'll ask you to do is look up what the Enneagram type I am is, and then like give a quick description of it. Because we used to do that back in the day where you had the information on call and ready to go. So we're going to try that again. And like I said, I think that when it comes to the personality test, you just don't let it be the thing that like is the be all end all about who you are. Because I think that that's always scary. And if you start to fall down that rabbit hole, you'll end up with a tinfoil hat potentially.
So let me also just preface this conversation with the fact that like I only had a physical reaction to you over so many months of our relationship together, Matt being a critic of the Enneagram and you just like openly saying, oh, but fortune
I've never
cookie.
been a critic of it.
Maybe not. So here's what I'm also saying too, is that if it's not in like an immediate buy-in of or hold on, if it's not a meeting each other at a foundational assumption of where I'm accepting or like I'm approaching a place, like we've had this conversation about Enneagrams, and I feel like I always have to come from a perspective of like convincing you or like making you understand my perspective kind of thing. So I only had a physical reaction because if I'd had like a fortune cookie fortune that you would have understood or like seen where I was coming from, I feel like it might have had a better reception or a different reception of just trying to have a conversation about Enneagram types in general. But I hate to inform you though, Matt. You're as a type 2, you're Disney Princess's Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, I know. That's my favorite one. I have all of the stuff. Courtney is my Belle. We've actually talked about getting the tattoo. So
my kids really love Beauty and the Beast and are super attached to Belle right now. So that just really makes you just love you so much more, homie.
So I will say, as the challenger, be ready to be challenged, I guess. I don't know. As far as like you bringing up the Enneagram things, whenever you said it, you always say it in such a like, I don't want to say a humble way, but in a like, I'm just saying like this is and to me, I don't know what to do with that information in the moment. So if I've ever like dismissed it, it's because I just don't know what to do with it in the process of recording a podcast, and it's a topic that we can't address in the moment, which is why I continue to be like, I need to just go do one of those. And I finally did it because we were looking for a topic, and I'm trying to get better about giving you topics you want to talk about. So as far as being critical, that's definitely, I just want to make sure that it's a moot point to feel like I was critical, because that was never the case. And I give you more space now to have the conversations you want to have and the conversations that you're interested in, because it is paramount to me to have this be a conversation for the both of us. And I enjoy having the conversations where it, like you said, we, things that fire us up, things that like have that visceral reaction. It's just, having the visceral reaction before the point's delivered is like kind of one of those things where it's like, well, let me finish before you start judging me. And that is where, if you want to explain what my Enneagram type is, why I might have that feeling.
You are, as a type 2, the helper, the optimist. You are resilient. You are courageous. You are kind-hearted, and you care deeply for everyone around you. And let me also tell you, Matt, homie, that there was like a certain level of validation that I felt for how much time and effort that I've put into building our friendship and building our relationship as like co-hosts. Because in times of stress, type 8s, the challenger, we cling to type 2s. So it's like almost like a foundational assumption of how we approach conflict. Like we understand a little bit better where the other person's coming from. And that's also why I keep saying grounded energy. Because I will also tell you, Matt, like I just so appreciate grounded energy regardless. But as somebody that can kind of like dial down controversial topics of conversation to like, here's actually the basis of what, here's the actual bare bones topic that we're discussing. That's another thing too that I think our Enneagram personalities mesh well with. And I always appreciate you reeling me in, even if episodes where I climb on to my 14er height soapbox and I get super animated, for you to be able to reel in my reactions and reel it in and kind of refocus those topics of conversation into something that's going to be more conducive and helpful to our homies, our Homes Room listeners. I appreciate it. And I just really also felt super validated, Matt, that you're a type 2.
Yeah. So like part of what I've always been is like calming energy for like everybody. And it's always like, it almost becomes like that, like I'm trying to think of like the best way to explain it, but like if you're in a friend group and you have the loud one, you have the one that's going to suggest something stupid that nobody's going to go along with, but like you have to hear it out because they're, you know that at the end there might be something good at the end of it, but you have to hear it out. And then you have that person that's like this is what we're going to do because this is what we have to do. And that person may or may not have the right answer, but they're so strongly convicted in it. It's hard to judge whether it is or is not right because the conviction is there. And then you have that person that like finds the middle line and is not necessarily the voice of reason, but just the person that sifts through all of the other bullshit that just happened. I'm always that person. And this is just another instant of where it's like, hey, you're the person that has the calming energy in the room. You're the person that will sit there and hear everybody out, but also approach them with like kind words to make them understand. So I don't know, do with that what you will.
Well, I do. Homie, I always hope that I will only ever have type 2s as supervisors.
Yeah.
Because they will match and reflect my energy really well, which again is just another point in your favor. Why I'm so thankful that you have invited me for over a year now at this point, as this episode's coming out, to be your co-host. So
yeah, stay tuned to see what happened. I'm sure. I think it's, to me, it becomes, you kept calling me like a professional fence sitter, and like, I almost took not offense to it, but like almost took that as like you were saying something without saying something, because to me, it's like, I can just really see both sides of the story. And it's easy for me to be like, I don't have a strong position on this because I don't need to have a strong position on this. And I just think it's so interesting when you take a personality quiz, like when it reinforces like those things, like you're a person that like can see, and it's like, hey, I identify with that. But then you can take one and it'll be like, you're very convicted in your beliefs, and it almost contradicts whatever's going on. Well, and I always think that that's super interesting that you can take different ones. This is one that like, I don't necessarily categorize it as that, because I'm talking about like just the broad sense of personality quizzes where you could take one here and it'll tell you this thing. You can take one there and it'll tell you that thing. So, it's an algorithm. I don't know.
Let me also just tell you too, I still think it is a strength and a compliment that, even if you don't take it that way, I still think it is a strength and a compliment that I will tell you that you are a professional fence sitter, even if it drives you nuts. Because there is still a lot of strength and grace that it takes to be able to understand and hear differing parts of a conversation, and you be able to still advocate for one versus the other. Like if I call you a fence sitter, it's not necessarily like a dig at you. Mm-hmm. And I will also tell you straight up, I'm like envious that you can do that, because as an Enneagram type 8 and as somebody that is just generically and just like generally a bull in a china shop, like if I see a perspective or I have a certain opinion about something, like I'm going to run with that. Like, I don't necessarily take the time to stop, pause, hear other perspectives. So even if you take it as a dig or you take it as something that's not super desirable, I still think it takes great strength to be somebody who can be a fence sitter or be somebody that can just like stand in a position of neutrality and just hear different perspectives and just give everybody an equal amount of bandwidth to be able to voice their different perspectives. And that's also something that I look for as a supervisor in the field that I work in currently too. Just because, believe it or not, Matt, there are a lot of Enneagrams, the Enneagram type 8s in law enforcement. A lot of type A personalities, a lot of strong-willed people that are just in this field in general. And I do generally wish that we had more type 2s or fence sitters, if you will, as supervisors in our field, just because I do think it is a great mark of intelligence and grace and strength to be able to pause a critical situation and hear differing perspectives and be able to hold court and hold audience for differing perspectives before you actually come to your own conclusion. So even though I am stereotypically a bull in a china shop, I still can see and appreciate differing personality types and differing perspectives. And even if the Enneagrams are just wishy-washy, not science-based, whatever, it's still a personality quiz that I took that made me feel like I could understand and see my personality type a little bit clearer and give a little bit more patience to myself, knowing that, like, maybe if people don't believe this wishy-washy science or whatever, I can trust my own perspective a little bit more, having like a little bit more understanding of like what my personality type is, and fully owning too, Matt, if I see something that like completely invalidates my own perspective versus like an Instagram profile, it's like, oh, this is a type 8, and I don't subscribe to or believe in that at all. I would take that into consideration too. It's just been one of those topics of conversation where anything that I see about an Enneagram type 8, I have related to a lot. So, maybe it's not science-based, but it's still something that I feel like I understand myself a little bit better after taking that personality quiz.
Yeah. So with that, I was going to say more, but I will bookend it with go take the tests, see what Enneagram you are, DM it to Kaitlin, see if you're friends or if she's going to completely ignore you because you're
Stop
whatever
it, no!
Enneagram that doesn't get along with her Enneagram. What it comes down to is, having those conversations, but also participating in our conversation. So, reaching out and saying, I believe this, or I agree, or I don't agree, whatever, it kind of is. And at the end of all of the, personality quiz tests, it almost always gives you some sort of disclaimer either before or at the end. And just understand that, these may be more of the pirate code. They're more of guidelines than actual rules. So it just kind of often becomes polarizing for something that shouldn't be polarizing, and that's strange to me when it comes to horoscopes. Like, I have a friend who legitimately believes in it so devoutly, talking to her sometimes is hard because she's in whatever phase of whatever thing and she can't do these. And it's like, okay, I have no time to understand and like follow these weird rules that you are changing every other week because the moon does this or the stars do that. While I appreciate that you are so devout to that way of thinking and it makes you who you are, and I think that that's, you know, unique, and like I can appreciate that. Sometimes it's just like too much is too much, and people need to understand, maybe throttle back when a friend is not on board with that way of thinking or believes in fortune cookies over other things. I don't know. That being said, if you have a horoscope thing that you absolutely believe in and it's helped you through whatever, and it like an app like Kaitlin said or something else, like Spotify horoscopes or something, I think is what I used to listen to, and it was like a daily thing, and I loved listening to it because it's like, I don't believe that, that's not happening this week, or that's not how I feel at all, or that is something that I was actually concerned about. I will keep an eye out for that kind of thing. And you know, it just kind of is. I still believe I make my own path and make my own decisions, but at the same time, getting as much information as you can to be informed, to make good decisions, kind of makes sense. So take those quizzes and, you know, figure out what house you're in or whatever, and see if it matches up with your buddies, or if it's like oh man, we can't be friends because, you know, I'm over there on that side and I'm over here on this side, and the only time I could talk to you is if I'm stressed. Stay over there
because Mercury's in retrograde.
Yeah,
you know, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. We have this conversation to have this conversation lightly, because at the end of the day, like, we're still homies, and it's about having conversations with your homie that like you wouldn't ordinarily be like, hey, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that thing. And I just want to say, I finally got this back from my mom. Yeah, there's that.
Thanks, Faye. I love you. Oh my God. Okay. Regardless, Matt.
Bookmark creases in the pages and everything. God damn.
Love it. Oh my God. Whether or not the Enneagram test is something that you subscribe to, Matt, it is still something that I still felt validated that you took it and you were a type 2, and it felt like a little bit more validating as to why you are somebody that I have like invested so much time and like showed up for, and, you know, all of the, you know, outside of podcasting things, like been there for as a friend, but also as like a co-host. And if, you know, the Enneagram personality test is something that like people may or may not subscribe to, let me just also pose this to Matt, to our homies, our listeners. If you take an Enneagram test and you completely vehemently disagree with the results that you get, like, please let me know. If you do take it and you believe like you're really validated by the results that you get, also please reach out. Like I've just felt like I've gained so much insight into myself or insight into other friendships based on this pseudoscience is maybe a good word for it, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I would go with that.
That I'm super, super interested into our listener feedback, specifically about Enneagram tests. So either way, Matt, adore you.
You know, like I said, I always think it's super interesting to do these and see whether it falls in line or not. I used to follow a bunch of Instagram pages that would like post stuff like that, and each day they would post something different about a personality type, and, you know, and ask whether you felt like you identified with it or didn't identify with it because, you know, you were this personality type, but this thing didn't serve you. And I always think that anything that gives you the space to disagree is important. And that's kind of what this podcast is we have the space to disagree with something or to agree with it, and, you know, be there to have that conversation. And I think that ultimately, when it comes to like any of the personality quizzes that I've ever taken, I always get something about like being tolerant or being, you know, like understanding or being like caring or what. So at the root, you know, they all seem like they say the same thing, so it's hard to ignore. So for you, if you're identifying with, you know, the things that you see posted on those posts from that Instagram page, I think, you know, the biggest thing is that you feel comfortable with who you are. And I think that's always what my hang up is about all of these, is like I've been so comfortable with who I am that whenever I see them, it's like, yeah, okay. And so like it's harder to.
We wish we could do that, babes.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing, is like, that's what it comes down to, is, you know, being able to see yourself. So don't let it stop at a, you know, personality quiz. Actually discover who you are. And because these are kind of being released in chronological order for the most part, you'll get to see who we are as long as Kaitlin answers the questions for next week, because we have a bunch of questions, because it's you know, just like a for funsy episode. And well, we're going to ask each other, you know, I shouldn't say ask each other, but we're going to answer some questions. So kind of a get to know you icebreakery question list that I found. And there's a good amount of questions that I think that we can answer and have fun. Like one of them, I'll tell you now, you're not going to answer because I got to wait to hear it next week. But
Matt.
It's what song would play at your funeral? And I almost guarantee that you have an idea. And I thought it was like, damn, this is such a good question for Kaitlin. Can't wait to hear her answer.
That's such a good question. Oh my God, I have already put some thought into this, bitch.
And I figured you would. So it was like, hey, so there's quite a few questions that I think we're going to enjoy. So Caitlin's just got to go on to Google Doc and answer these questions.
Well, either way, if that is the prompt for the next week's episode, I have always said full on, for the Holmes Room brand, I am an open fucking book. And I am so looking forward to giving you my open and honest feedback to all those questions, including what song I want playing at my funeral.
Like I said, I think it's just so like the questions are whatever. There's a lot of them. And in my search for them, I sent one to Courtney, like a list of questions, and we answered them back and forth because it was like, why
That's
not?
really sweet.
So, I enjoy doing that. So if you want the list of questions to answer, we'll give you the list of questions too, but you got to write in and let us know that you want it, or comment on the posts that, you know, you hear, or comment through the link in the show notes, all that kind of stuff. We want to see the questions too. We want to answer them. So yeah, we just want everybody out there listening to be engaged. One thing that I've seen is we're growing a little bit, but we're staying consistent with the listeners that we have. So what I want to see, if we're not going to grow, is I want to see more interaction, because if we've held on to you for this long, hopefully you enjoy listening to us. We want to listen to you too. Damn it. So give us some feedbacks.
Homies, babes, at this point, we've invested over a year into our relationship with each other, and we are still just so thankful that you're even here listening. So just take that as a dub. Please, we are begging you, let us know your thoughts, feelings, and feedback about each of these episodes, specifically this one, because I want to know what Enneagram type you are. Yeah, thank you so much, homies, for joining us for another episode of the Holmes Room podcast, and we will see you next week.
Yeah. Go do the review thing, because we got to get more reviews. We did get one review from the last interview we did together. Mm-hmm. I will read it right now. I forgot about it. I meant to do it at the start of the episode, and I forgot. So okay. I will read it now. We got a review that says, "These two ask the best questions. Leah and I love being guests on this podcast. Matt and Kaitlin are so fun to hang with." So
can I guess who that came from?
Willow B. I love that one. So continue to give us reviews. I want to get more reviews. I want to hear what you have
Willow,
to say
we
about
love
it.
you so much.
We love you so much. So and Leah, we're with both of you.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Equally,
Leo.
but separately. Yeah. So go do that. Go fill out. Give us reviews. Spotify reviews are coming in, but we don't see who those come from. So you got to send us a screenshot so we know it's you reviewing. Apple ones, you can leave a comment. Spotify ones, it's just the stars. And like I said, I see that those go up and I see that those are happening. And it seems like we're still at like 5-star reviews from like 17 or 19 people. I can't remember.
Love.
So thank you for that. But also we gotta know who you are. We want to celebrate you. As Kaitlin would say, we want to love on you a little bit.
Please.
And the last thing I wanted to say, and we're going to start talking about this more, is I'm thinking about doing a giveaway. But the giveaway is the prizes are going to be like either a couple of different prizes or a prize pack for one lucky person. But I'm thinking about doing a code word thing where you got to listen to the episodes and then you got to have the code words. So if you're listening every week, you're going to be set. If you're not, then you got to figure out what the code words are. And, I'm assuming nobody is going to be like, hey, this is the code word from this week. And, I've been got by mom groups before who cheat. So I tried to figure out a way that they couldn't cheat. So we're going to drop the code word randomly in it. And I can't decide whether I'm just going to say it, whether Caitlin's going to say it, whether I'm going to have one of my kids record it and just play the clip somewhere in it.
Shit.
So you just going to have to listen and find out. So thank you. Bye.
Bye, homies.
The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us.
Do it.
Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.
That's the truth. Go learn something.